Hi there, it's January 17th, 2023. I'm Dana Peters-Colley. Last week I was sharing with you, gosh, are we not seeing things flip on that pancake that God spoke about, how everything is going to be changing as we get closer and closer to His coming. What an amazing time that He selected us to live in. I'm going to get back over to Kings and teaching how to reign. This one is really an important one, and so it's going to be great for you to learn from what it is that's in Scripture here. It's called the fall, and every king, and remember, if you're a believer, we are called to be kings and priests unto God. That's Revelation 1:6. But we're going to dive briefly into the fall. Throughout the time of the kings of Israel and Judah, there were kings and ones who did not follow God. We are called to pray for our leaders, but here also two things that we weigh Scripture with, which is that Jesus says, you'll know a believer by their fruit, Matthew 7:16 and 7:20, and also back in 7:16, do men gather grapes of thorns or figs of thistles? Now, if we focus and look at that, I mean, you can get over there on the figs and the thistles and the grapes and all of that. But what he's talking about also is the word gather. So think about collecting an association. Do you gather with things that are good? Do you associate yourself with people of wisdom and understanding, people that are godly, people that will elevate you and lead you to higher places with the Lord? These are huge things to think about before we step into the lesson of the fall. But let's go on to what Samuel's instruction to Saul was after he fell. So King Saul had this great thing that he did, and it cost him everything. But the words from Samuel were, to obey is better than sacrifice. So that's in 1 Samuel 15:22. So we think about that for a minute, that to obey God is better than all the things that we can sacrifice for God. Thinking that we're doing the right things for those sacrifices, when in reality, if we're not obeying, then we're not following the Lord. So let's go on and start this study. We're in 1 Samuel 15. Can you imagine this? God has picked you to be king over the whole nation of Israel. Just think about that. Think about what that would come with, and the responsibilities that he would have for you. And it also said, too, that Samuel was his best pick. So we know that about him. But you're told by the prophet Samuel, you're told to go into battle. And the instruction is specific. Destroy, utterly destroy your enemy and all they have. You take 210,000 men with you, and you go in and you destroy the enemy. But Saul didn't listen to the instructions. After they won the battle, he spared sheep. They were good and some of the best ones. He spared the ox. There were ox that were really good ox. He spared some lambs, because his eyes deceived him. Something might look good to you, but do you know you aren't supposed to do it? That's hard, right? You convince yourself, God did not say that. You add a sprinkle of doubt and convince yourself God will be okay with it. But God's not okay. I know for me personally, it's just really funny. I have a certain car that I really like. I haven't even been in it. But I like it. It's the design of it. It's just a really pretty car. But I know that when God sent me a vision of the car I was to have, I ended up with it. Gets great gas mileage, and it works for all that God has me doing. So my joke and my thing that I state to God is, hey, when I get to heaven, if we have cars, get me that other car. So that's how I focus on it. I focus on following where God has me with what he's allowed me to have. And yes, my eyes really like that other car, but I'm asking for him to give it to me in heaven, so that if he wants to give it to me. So then that way it doesn't feel like I'm not getting it, that I'm not blessed, but it's the part of just saying, hey, I can wait, if you decide to give it to me. So that's kind of wisdom in what it is that God has. It's putting everything before God and putting it on the plate for him to make decisions for your life so that you can follow him. Saul also didn't listen, and this is the big one. He spared the king. Whew, let's look at the enemy now. Okay, so why would God tell them to destroy completely? So the Amalekites go back to a concubine and Esau's son. So Esau's son and this concubine formed the tribe, or this group of people called the Amalekites. They fought in the battle against Moses, where Joshua had to go in, and Moses had his arms held up by Aaron and by her. No, it's Hun. No, it's her. He had his arms held up in order to complete this battle. That's how hard the battle got for Joshua and Israel. And it even states that the Lord will have war with Amalek from generation to generation. That's in Exodus 17:16. But it was prophesied in Numbers 24:20 that Amalek was the first of the nations, but his latter end shall be to perish forever. And it also states in 1 Samuel 15:2 that the Lord of hosts remembered that which Amalek did to Israel, how he lay to wait for Israel in the way when they came up from Egypt. So these people were to be destroyed, and they had done much to Israel. So you think about the nation, what they would feel toward this enemy, what they would feel towards this group, and how God determined that they were to perish. And Saul did not listen to Samuel's instructions. Now, a king needs to stay away from rebellion, as it is the sin of witchcraft. That's 1 Samuel 15:23. The irony here is that later witchcraft, something that Saul knew was forbidden, and he even covered himself up when he went to this person to end up having her pull on the spiritual realm. And so he asks for Saul. Saul asks for Samuel to be pulled up. Now Samuel had passed away, and he pleads for his help because there's a war. He's got to face this thing, and so it comes back through Samuel that because of what he did by disobeying with Amalek, not destroying completely, and that Saul and his sons will be completely destroyed the next day. This is in 1 Samuel 28. There's a price for leadership. What can God entrust you with? I see lots of believers raise their hands. Oh my gosh, do people get excited? They raise their hands when someone from the platform makes the statement about, do you want God's blessings? Do you want to have all that God has? Do you want God to give you things? You know, and I see everyone's excitement about it. But what we really need to desire and want is shalom. We need to want peace and wholeness, nothing missing. We need God to give us what it is that we can handle and abide in a lifestyle that's going to bring us joy and peace. Responsibility comes to us when God will increase us with things and business and possessions. But what are you gathering around you? Are you gathering wisdom? Are you gathering good counsel? Are you obeying God? Are your eyes deceived by what you want? We're kings and priests unto God. Let's go after balance and ask God to show us that and show us shalom. So in Saul's fall, because he disobeyed God and wasn't complete in what he did, in what God had him do, he lost the kingdom. And his sons. So his lineage lost their kingship. So what a tragedy. Yet it teaches us such a great lesson. I pray that you're blessed today. I think I'll move now over a little bit into that word from 12/12/2022. And the one thing I actually got out of that this morning, let me just run to it, was the very first statement that the Lord gave to me, which, hold on, I've got to look for it now, but was how God was going to change everything. And everything with God is going to be changing. So we can trust him and press into him and follow him because he is God and he is going to lead us safely. I know last week I got away for a little bit of time, a little bit of resting time. And on my way back, there was, through the state that I was going to drive through, there was a big tornado that killed people. And we're to listen in these times and press into God. God is kind. He gave his only begotten Son for us, and he wants us to follow him. So these are hours and times to get close to him and follow him, because Jesus told us all of these things will happen before he comes. And we've got to be listening for where and what God's got ahead for us. I pray you have a blessed day. I pray that you definitely surround yourself with good and wise counsel, as I want to do too, and that you are following the Lord in everything you do. See you next week.